Hello, everybody. Welcome to SpotLocker's Webinar 101. It's a beautiful Wednesday, and hopefully everybody's having a great week. Doesn't seem like we're going to get any more participants for this one, so we're just going to go ahead and get started. If at any point through the presentation you guys have any questions, please go ahead and raise your hand in the panel. I'll be happy to answer any questions as we go along. So today we're reviewing spot lockers, and this is the new kind of locker technology that we've developed in use with Delivery Console. So we'll go ahead and jump right into it, and we'll take a quick look at what features you can expect when you start utilizing your locker operation. In addition to that, this is one of the required webinars to attend during the onboarding process. And also, if you are taking over the locker and delivery console operation for your company, and it's already been in use, this is also a great way to start with getting up to speed in everything that needs to be involved in that process. So what kind of features do we have for our Locker Logic? Well, first of all, it's a fully integrated service across multiple platforms, meaning that it not only is its own thing, but also has different types of products in relation with it. We already talked a little bit about Delivery Console being a part of the Locker operation, but there's also other components such as RouteTrack Mobile and Spot itself as well. Not only that, but the consumer part of things involves the mobile app if you have one published for your company, or the Customer Connect API product as well. All of these all come together to create a robust locker operation that starts from the very bottom. Now, obviously, we've tried to develop a simple, intuitive interface for everything lockers related. It doesn't matter if we're talking about delivery console side of thing, or RouteTrack side of thing, or the consumer app side of things. We are trying to make everything streamlined in terms of UI as far as that goes. The next one we have here in the list is the on-site locker management. So there's a variety of things that your drivers can do at the locker location once it's time to actually process the pickups of the bags or deliveries. Some of these include bag pickup and locker drop-off. This is the very basic type of functionality when we are at the locker stop. Customer assigned PIN numbers, unknown bag processing and customer search, which is extremely useful when it comes to trying to process a pickup for a customer that may not have placed the request via the mobile app or a Customer Connect website. The unknown bag processing is what will allow us to at least get that pickup done at that point in time, and then we can assign the customer at a later date. Old inventory and return to store notifications. These are obviously highly important because it is imperative that we have a way to communicate to our customers that we have collected their bags or that their bags are ready for pickup from their side. So the notifications is how we communicate outwards with them and keep them up to date with every part of the process. And then the last thing is locker reassignments. This is just one of the many things that you can do from inside Delivery Console. If there's ever a point in time where you must override something like an order that's sitting inside a locker, and we need to move that to a different one, then that is definitely something that we can do at any point in time, either from RouteTrack or from Delivery Console itself. So everything that happens with lockers is updated in real time from Spot's database side. So there's no approval process that needs to be involved. There's no, acknowledge that the clerk or anybody at the store needs to perform to allow locker drop-offs to go through or for customers to come and retrieve their garments. And activity notifications to customers via email and texting. So just going back to the point we were talking about a little while ago, that communicating out to the customers is a very important part of the locker logic, and it's highly recommended that you do not start your locker operation until at least you have completely set up the types of notifications you wish to employ. So let's look at the components that are involved in the locker logic. So the first one is the MDC Mobile. This is the mobile app that is published to the Play Store on an Android devices and to the App Store on iOS devices. Now, it's important to note here that even though in parentheses we see here it says optional, it's a greatly recommended part of the locker logic. Nowadays everybody has a mobile app, right? Every business out there, you'll find an app for them in one of the app stores. on the most popular devices. So it is highly recommended that we have this not only for branding purposes and for accessibility to the customers, but because for customers to utilize the mobile app to place their locker drop-offs, it becomes infinitely easier and smoother for you to keep track of what's being placed where, of what customers are utilizing your service, and for the driver to perform their pickups without having to go through extra steps to associate a bag with a customer. So the mobile app is, even though it's optional, it greatly enhances the experience overall with the locker operation. So the mobile app handles the consumer-facing side of things, and it's what actually handles the locker request. So from the mobile app, the customers, your customers, will be able to place the locker drop-off by either scanning the barcode on the inside of the locker door that you have installed, or selecting it from the list. On top of this, also the mobile app will provide them with directions on how to get there by engaging the phone's mapping component, if it's Google Maps or Apple Maps, whatever have you. Not only, and even on top of that, the mobile app is the only place where the customer is able to view where the lockers are located in their general area, because the mobile app will show them a preview of their closest 50 miles worth of locker banks. So based on the device's location, the customer's location, they'll be able to see 50 closest locker banks that are available to them, and then they can make the selection of which one they want to go to and get the driving instructions on how to get there. Number 2 is delivery console. This is obviously an integral part because you cannot have lockers, at least the new lockers, without delivery console. So it's obvious to mention here that it's one of the main components. Delivery console's part in the locker operation is for the routing and the manifest creation side of things. So delivery console is what you'll be using to actually create the locker banks, adding the locker doors, and adding that locker bank as a route stop onto one of your service plans. Once that's all taken care of, then delivery console will be utilized to create the route plans that will include this locker stop as a stop on the route. Number 3 is RouteTrack Mobile, and this is the driver-facing app, right? So we have the consumer-facing app, and then we have the driver-facing app. RouteTrack Mobile is another component that is required for this whole thing to work together, mostly because without RouteTrack Mobile, you cannot use delivery console's features to their full extent. So therefore, RouteTrack Mobile is required in this avenue. From the driver side of things, this is what will allow them to perform the on-site management of the locker banks. So actually going through and picking up whatever the customers left in there, making the deliveries, reconciling old inventory that might be sitting inside the lockers. That's what the RouteTrack Mobile will allow them to do. And then last but not least, number 4 is Spot. Obviously, this one's the easiest because most of you will already have this, but Spot is involved in the process and the avenue of the notification center side of things and invoice history. So basically, even though the requests from customers that place their locker drop-offs will be handled through API, the mobile app or Customer Connect, Spot will be able to see these requests and display them in a notification center entry so that you can review and be prepared for the day to see what requests we're going to be fielding today. On top of that, also the orders that you detail that come from the locker banks, Spot will be in charge of making sure that that detailed order is associated with a locker event. That way it can be placed on a route plan from delivery console and delivered at the appropriate time. One thing I do want to mention when it comes to Spot and the locker orders as well, and this is something I get questions very often, is that when it comes to allowing this locker order that we've created in the system to be placed on a manifest on delivery console, some people encounter issues where they're just unable to load it onto the manifest. And by that, I mean that when they create the route plan, it just doesn't populate these orders onto the manifest, even though they've been cleaned and everything, and they say locker on the visual invoice. It's important to remember that delivery console's manifest will only pull orders that are in a ready status, okay? So if your order is in a detailed status or in any other type of processing step that's not a ready step, then these orders will not pull onto the manifest when you create it from Delivery Console. So just keep that in mind, please. Anyways, moving forward, we'll take a brief look at the consumer app side of things and what that looks like from the customer's part. So the first thing we see here on the left is the just the regular unbranded look of our mobile app that we have developed. And one of the menu items here that we have now is locker drop-off. So when we select locker drop-off, the first thing that is going to assume is that the customer is already at the location. So the only thing that's requesting from us is to scan the barcode of the locker door that's inside of the door, and then confirm the locker number. Now, if the customer is not on site at the location yet, that's totally fine. All they have to do is tap where it says Westgate Park Building 1. In this case, this is the name of the locker bank that it has defaulted us to. But if we tap that, then we will see a preview of all the other locker banks in the nearest area. And again, remember, this is the 50 miles closest to the customer based on their phone location. On top of that, it's only also going to show you 50 locker banks total, because we've had the questions, with somebody has 200 plus locker banks and the customers can only find 50 on the mobile app when they're trying to find a location that is intended. We only show the closest 50 locker banks to the customer within the 50-mile radius area. And the reason is very obvious, right? If they cannot select, if they can't make their mind one in between 50, chances are one between 200 is not going to cut it either. So just keep that in mind when you're trying to assist any customers that complain that they only see 50 locker banks or something along those lines. Now, once the customer has selected a locker bank, they can confirm the address here at the bottom, as you can see. And on top of that, there's also the ability to tap on that little car icon that shows at the very bottom, and that's what's going to engage the mapping component on their mobile device that will allow them to get direction by direction driving instructions on how to get there. Now, once we're at the location and it's time to perform the drop-off from the customer, we're still on the consumer side of things. So the first thing that we see on the left-hand side when we select a locker bank is interior directions. And this is important for a variety of reasons, right? So if you have installed your locker banks in a building, but they're in the, let's say they're in the third floor or in the basement or in the garage or, whatever have you, it's important that we let the customer know where to go to find the locker bank as effectively as possible, because if they show up, spend 5 minutes looking for your locker bank, you just can't find it and they're just going to walk away. So interior directions have been added to locker banks with that in mind. And if you're curious as to where you can add those are added via Delivery Console in the locker bank section. So when you go edit a locker bank or add a new locker bank, there is an interior directions field. Then you can input the information as to how to get to the locker bank in there. This does not require you to have to submit a change request to your mobile app team on our side, meaning that because usually when there's a change that needs to happen to a published mobile app, then we have to go through a rebuilding process and then republishing process, and that can take a little bit depending on how Apple is feeling that week, for example, right? Sometimes it will take longer than anticipated, but with the interior directions, you can update these live. So if you add interior directions to your locker bank in Delivery Console, all you would have to do is log out and log back in from the mobile app to see the changes. So that's a great benefit. Now in the middle here, we have a confirmation screen for the locker bank and the locker that we have selected. This appears after the customer has scanned the barcode on the inside of the door. So it's a confirmation screen just to say, hey, okay, we're gonna record this for this locker bank at this location, at this address, and inside of this locker door. So, and then there's an additional field for special instructions in case the customer has any additional comments that they wanna leave us when they perform the drop-off. Selecting continue on the screen will then just confirm the drop-off. If they, however, do not hit continue and let's say they decide to walk away from the locker bank, their mobile device is going to present them with this pop-up screen saying, hey, we noticed that you left without completing the locker check-in process. If you did not drop off a bag, please press cancel request. Otherwise, please press return to locker and enter the exterior locker ID that you left your bag in. It's just pretty much a fail-safe mechanism so that way we don't have bogus requests that come through, and in the event that the customer decided to cancel and not actually finish the locker drop-off and they just decided to walk away, this will attempt to minimize that, as well as instances in which they might actually place the bag inside, but they did not finish the request on the mobile app. So therefore, we don't know whose bag that is if it doesn't have a bag tag, for example. And that is pretty much what the mobile app will handle in this situation. Once the customer has confirmed the locker drop-off, all they have to do is just walk away. And then once we get there, when the driver gets there, next time that the manifest is run, then they'll be able to collect those garments. Now, as soon as they hit continue here and they finish the locker drop-off, you will receive this information in a notification center entry in your spot. So you'll be able to see the customer's name, the locker bank that they dropped off at, and the locker door where they dropped off their garments at, as well as timestamped information as to when the locker drop-off came through. And here's an example of what that looks like in action. So as you can see, we're inside the notification center and spot. We have the different kinds of notification information. We can see messages, signups, change accounts, etc. But the one that we're looking for here is obviously locker pickups. And once we select that, we can see that new request that came through. We have the customer's name, the store that they belong to, and then within the locker column, we see a combination of two pieces of data. We have the locker bank short description, and we have the locker door short description. These two pieces of information come together in this fashion, as we see here, to show us where the customer placed the garments at. Now, you'll also notice that there's two additional columns, one for collected and one for on manifest. This just is letting us know if this particular drop-off has already been collected by a driver via RouteTrack Mobile. So for delivery console's side of this of the locker operation, like we said in the beginning, delivery console handles the actual creation of the locker banks and assigning that as a route stop in a service plan. On this particular screenshot, we have, on this particular slide, we have 4 screenshots. One that just shows you this zone that we have defined for our locker and how this small locker pin appears amongst the sea of normal customer stops. And this is because you can actually configure service plans to not only service regular customers or just to service lockers. You can do a mix of both. And you can go even further by creating service windows for your service plan that will maybe service lockers on different days than your normal customer stops. But we have a complete webinar on Delivery Console. If you haven't visited that one yet, then we definitely go in depth about Delivery Console service plans and service windows. But just for our locker information, we can see here at least that what we're demonstrating is that we have a service plan with a zone in which there is a locker stop or two in here. Now, as far as the locker bank creation itself, this is the screenshot that matters in that regard. And as you can see here, there's a few pieces of information that we already have available to us when we're creating a new locker bank. The building name is obviously important because a locker bank stop is the name of the physical building location where we installed the locker banks. The short description is required, and it's important that the short description does not have any spaces within it. It must be a full-on single string of words, right, or numbers together, whatever have you, whatever's easiest for you to understand which locker bank this is without having to actually read the entire name or have to confine the entire name. So a short description could be something like, you know, if in our testing database, for example, the name of our locker bank is Spot Premium Lockers, and we have placed a short description name for that locker bank as just PREM for Premium Prem. So it's something that should be short and sweet, but it should be more than enough for you to identify which locker bank this is. As far as the actual description field, that's not necessary. The comments are not required either. The address is, however, required because it must be a valid address. And something that we've also found recently, and this is something you should definitely be keenly aware of, is that when you're looking into onboarding with your lockers and you want to launch your locker operation, always make sure that the building that you are intending to install your locker banks at is mappable. The reason why I say that is because there are new buildings out there that just have not been populated into some of the mapping components out there, right? Man, Google may have it, but Google has the most up-to-date stuff all the time, but we don't integrate with Google fully today. So just to be on the safe side, I always recommend that you come into the locker bank screen and you try to type in the address that you're aiming to lease for your locker banks and make sure that it is correct and that it populates on the address. Because on this address field, when you start typing in the address, it's going to actually give you a list of suggestions for that address, and that just means that it has been able to identify and validate that address itself. If it doesn't, then obviously we got a problem, and that building is probably new or something like that. It has not been populated to different mapping databases, so we can't actually find it and validate it, which means you won't be able to configure it for the locker bank. And if you already installed your locker bank at that location physically, well, that's already a bit of a problem, right? So as a best practice, just make sure that we double check that when we're looking into expanding or installing new locker banks. As far as the rest of the information, the interior directions here is what we were talking about a little bit earlier when we were looking at the mobile app. This is where you will place the actual interior directions that will display on the mobile phone for the consumer when they're trying to look for a locker bank to utilize. So this is where you will come to add that when you want to instruct them on where to go. As far as drop-off instructions or pickup instructions, you do not have to fill those out. They're just there in case there are options for you. Maybe you're running a special this month, a certain coupon, and you want to let the customer know to grab one of them. Maybe you have them there at the locker bank location, and they just need to grab one of them, take them home with them. You can add that at the in the drop-off or pickup instructions. For the locker instructions, this is what you'll add where you'll add your locker doors. So you're adding 3 pieces of data per locker door. One is the locker door ID, which is usually just a number, right? 148, for example. Barcode data. This must be unique across the board, so you cannot have duplicates anywhere, all right? So make sure that that is a unique barcode number, and then the short description is usually just a mirror of the locker door ID, or you can do something like in this example, the name of the building is Freelope Locker, and the short description of the locker bank is free. So the short description of the locker door could be free 1 or free 2 or free 3, right? Depending on how you want to do that based on the locker number and the short description of the locker bank. It is up to you. And once you save that, that's all it really needs to be done to create and configure a new locker bank. As far as adding it as a stop on a service plan, you'll have to use Delivery Console for that, which you already are using because you're creating the locker bank. The third option on Delivery Console from top to bottom is called Stop Setup. You can then change the type of stop you're adding from customer stop to locker stop, and then just type in the name of the locker bank, and you'll be able to add it to a valid service plan as long as the service plan as long as there is a service plan that has a zone attached to it where these lockers banks fall within. All right. And again, for more Delivery Console context, you're welcome to check us out next week for the Delivery Console webinar. If you already have been to it, then you should be familiar with that process already. And if you need a refresher, then definitely visit docs.spotpos.com where we have information about Delivery Console. Now let's move forward and let's check out the next component. So this is RouteTrack Mobile, and this is the driver's side of things, right? So as far as RouteTrack goes, and for your drivers, nothing really much has changed in how they should be handling normal customer stops via RouteTrack and how they'll be handling locker There's a little bit of a difference, obviously a bit of a learning curve, but we'll walk through it together. So as far as loading the manifest itself, that has not changed at all. It just comes down from look at the list of manifests when they log in into RouteTrack, and then pick up the one that is from delivery console that includes the locker stops. Once they have that loaded in the middle screenshot, we can see that it's very, very easy to tell the difference between a normal route customer stop and a locker bank stop. You know, aside from the fact that it has a big lock icon instead of all this miscellaneous information that the customer route stop, it also will usually say the locker bank name, which is a building rather than a person. Once inside the locker bank stop, however, is where things get a little bit different. So for the driver side of things, there's three components inside their RouteTrack when they look at that locker stop. There's old orders, there's pickup bags, and then there's deliver orders. And we'll look at what each one of them do, but I do definitely want to point out on the pickup bag section that we already have two customers that have performed a drop-off at this locker bank. And the only reason why we see this is because they made it via the mobile app or via Customer Connect. So that's why that kind of information is important to have and why we recommend that the mobile app is utilized in this process, because now the driver knows already which locker doors to expect a bag for this customer at. So the pickup tab that we just looked at is what handles the app locker requests, the customer search, and unknown customers processing. The delivery tab creates the multiple locker assignment process because you are able to actually spread out delivery in between many different lockers. Like, you know, it could be a very big order. You have 5 bags to deliver, and the lockers are not, you know, huge, right? So you can't just cram in 5 bags inside of one. But the driver is definitely able to place a few in one locker and then a few in other lockers. On top of that, this is where they will also be able to relocate orders from one locker to another in case maybe the magnetic lock on one of the locker doors went bad and they want to move it to a different one. They can do that at that point. And then the third one is old orders. So old orders is what handles the reminders that trigger out when a customer has not picked up their garments and they've been sitting in a locker bank for way too long. Then we want to definitely remind them to come clear that locker out, because they're not supposed to be storage units, right? They're supposed to be lockers. So and also obviously at this point in the old orders is what will also trigger the return to store request to the driver. So this happens after 3 times. And I believe we are working on adding a setting for this so that you can increase it or reduce it however you see fit. But by default, it's 3 days. So what happens is that, I guess not 3 days, but 3 visits. I should rectify that statement. So if we have made a delivery of a locker order into one of the locker banks and we have, you know, finished the route, then we come back next delivery day or next pickup and delivery day, and we show up at the locker banks, and the driver verifies that the order he delivered last time is still there, and he scans it. Then a reminder will be triggered to the customer saying, "Hey, you know, we still have your stuff here. Come pick it up." But if it happens again, a third time that we visit the locker bank, then the RouteTrack Mobile will ask the driver to bring that order back into the store so that the customer can make pickup arrangements, and then we can clear out that locker. So here's a series of screenshots of the pickup tab of RouteTrack inside a locker bank stop. So the first screenshot all the way to the left here, this is a known customer drop-off that was made via the mobile app or via Customer Connect. And the advantage that we have is that we already know who the customer is because they had to log into their account to make that drop off. So we already know who the customer is, we know their customer ID, and we also know what locker they dropped off their stuff at. So at this point, the driver has 2 options. They can either scan bags, and you can see here at the bottom, so they can scan the bag tag of this bag, and then that will say, you know, depending if it scans 1 time or 2 times, if it's 2 bags or just 1, however many bags we're picking up, right? But even if the bag doesn't have a bag tag, because maybe this customer was never a route customer, it's important to know that you do not have to be a route customer to use locker banks. You can be a counter customer and still be able to use the locker banks. But however, so if they have a bag tag, then we can scan it at this point in time to confirm how many bags we're picking up. If they don't have a bag tag, that's totally fine. All we have to do is just select how many bags we're taking from this locker. Once we've done that, we need to click confirm, and that will process that pickup for that customer drop-off request. In the middle, we have a bit of a different process. This is the unknown customer pickup. And the way this works is that if by any reason, maybe somebody saw your locker banks on display, so some of the advertisement material, and decided, hey, I want to try it out, but they never used your services before. So that already poses a problem, right? Because we don't know who this customer is, because they never had an account with you. And two, they left the bag with garments inside. So a driver at this point, what they'll need to do is the best business practice when they show up at a locker bank location is for them to just go through and open every single locker door with their master PIN and then visually check every single one and make sure that there's nothing in there that shouldn't be there or that is unexpected, right? Because based on the RouteTrack mobile pickup screen, they'll know which ones were placed from the customer Connect side of things or a mobile app side of things. They already have that information on there, and they can then reconcile that with what they see physically. But it is also important not to miss anything that might have been placed in there without a drop-off from the mobile app or Customer Connect. So if they were by any chance to find one of those and they check the bag and there's no identification, there's no bag tag, and we don't want the driver to have to go through the garments and check for HSL, so it's not their job. So what they'll do instead is that by best practice, they should always carry a roll of temporary barcodes, and these don't have to be anything specific, just regular barcodes will do. And as you can see in the screenshot here, they will be able to select how many bags they're picking up and then scan a temporary tag. So what the process will look like is that if I'm the driver and I'm at the locker bank location, I open up all the doors, I did a pickup of a bag that was dropped off that was correctly placed from the mobile app. And then as I walk, I see another bag in a locker that I don't know of. Nobody ever told me about it. My RouteTrack doesn't show it. I can safely assume this was somebody who did not place the drop off from the Customer Connect or the mobile app. So I will first scan that locker door ID with RouteTrack. And after that happens, it's going to present us with this screen because we don't know who the customer is. So now I select one bag and then I'm going to scan a temporary tag, and that is the temporary barcode that I'm carrying. And what that's going to do is that's going to create a link between this unknown customer drop off at this locker bank, at this locker door, and then create that information on the back end so that at some later point, we can then associate that event with an actual customer account. As you can see on the right screenshot, now we have three pieces of information in our pickup bags tab. The first one is already been collected. It's in green. This was a locker door 1 for this customer, and we picked up one bag. We have yet to do the pickup for the second entry. And then we also now see this unknown pickup and the third entry for locker 11. So what the process will look like from here on out will be that once the driver comes back to the store with this temporary bag, then the clerk would grab the bag and hopefully be able to find some sort of identification with an HSL on the garment. If there isn't, and it's just a brand new customer that's never, ever been in there, then I guess at that point we would have no choice but to wait for a phone call from somebody saying, hey, I dropped off something at your lockers like a week ago. Where is it? And at that point, we can create an account for them. But let's say that there is an HSL and we can actually find who this person is. They do have an account in Spot. Then once we go into detail, instead of scanning the bag tag, we will instead, because there isn't one, right? We would select extended lookup and then we would scan that temporary barcode. And what that's going to do is it's going to make Spot go, oh, okay, this is an unknown customer. Do you want to associate this order with a known customer? And at that point, the clerk can make the association between this unknown customer pickup and then and make that association with a known customer record in Spot. And then after that is done, then they'll be able to just go through with the detail and be able to get this order assigned to the appropriate customer and get that cleaned up. So that's what the unknown customer process looks like on paper. And that's how it works also. As far as delivery, this one's a bit more simple, a bit easier to understand. So basically, it doesn't really have anything different than what they're doing today with delivering orders to customer stops. On the Deliver Orders tab, as we can see here on the left-hand side, we have one order that is ready for Mrs. Brown. We just scan the invoice, then scan the locker door barcode. We confirm that we're delivering order 0833, and then we confirm at the bottom in green. After we hit confirm, it's going to show us the customer's PIN number. This is pulled directly from Spot from the customer view. And once the driver has logged the door with this PIN number, then they just have to hit confirm locked, and that will process the delivery. Easy, right? As far as all orders go, and this is, remember, this is the inventory management that we were talking about in the beginning. So all orders is, again, a way for us to keep track of what we've delivered, keep track of what the customer has yet to pick up, and so on and so forth. So on RouteTrack mobile side, what we see here is that once we select all orders, we see whatever we delivered last time and where to find it. So if I'm the driver and I have all my locker doors open, and I look at my older orders tab, then I know that I have to go look at locker number 3 and make sure that this order that we delivered last time, if it's there or not. Once we select this order, it will present us with the ability to either select that it's present, or if I tap on this button, it's going to toggle it off, and then we're saying that it's not present. Basically, all the driver is doing here is saying, yeah, this is still here, yeah, this is still here, yeah, this is still here, and then confirming. What that does is that once he confirms that an order is still present and he hits confirm, it's going to ask them to lock the door again and confirm locked. If he marks the order as not present and he hits confirm, that's all it's just going to clear it from RouteTrack and just say, okay, well, that means that the customer came and picked it up, so we don't care about it anymore. On top of that, every time that he marks the order as present and he confirms it locked, it's going to send that notification reminding the customer that they need to come pick up their stuff because we're still waiting for them to come clear out the locker. And here is a list of examples of what these notifications look like. For example, we picked up one bag from the lockers at Huntsman Tower, and we will notify you when your items have been returned. So this is a locker collected SMS. We've returned one order back to Huntsman Tower, locker 4, your PIN is blah, blah, blah. This is a locker delivered notification SMS. And then the last one is your one orders are still awaiting pickup at Huntsman Tower, locker 4. Please pick them up at your earliest convenience or call us at this number if you're not able to get them right away. And this is obviously a customer reminder notification SMS. So there's basically different kinds that you can configure, and you can do it for both SMS or email depending on your predilection. And here's the different kinds. So we have locker bag collected, locker order delivered, locker order moved, locker order present, and locker order returned. Obviously, the first one is just us picking up a bag that the customer dropped off. Number 2 is us coming back and delivering the order to a locker. Number 3 is in case we need to move the order to a different one, we want to let the customer know that we did that, right? Because we want to give them heads up that it's in a different locker now. Locker order present is us reminding the customer that they need to come pick up the garments at the locker specified. And then locker order return is a notification saying, hey, we had to bring your stuff back to the store. Call us at this number to make pickup arrangements. The notification reminder that handles this, and you can find this in the customer view in the reminders tab, is the order ready reminder. This has to be sent to email 1 or email 1 and phone SMS if you want to do email and SMS both. Now, there's a caveat here with these though. And some of you may already have contacted Spot support for this, but on the onboarding checklist that you guys should have, or if you already finished that, then you'll know that one of the steps in getting a technician to sit down with you one-on-one to go over testing and whatever else we have for the onboarding, one of them is the notification setup. And this is the point in time where we will go in and configure all these types of notifications for you. However, there is no default email version of these, so we don't have a template that comes with Spot by default that we can configure for you for these locker notifications. We have SMS default templates, so those can be definitely set up with just a quick phone call or in one of those one-on-one sessions that you'll have with technicians. But as far as the email one, you definitely want to hire a web designer or somebody who creates templates for you. My personal recommendation is obviously Be Creative 360, the guys behind On the Spot Marketing that have partnered with us for many marketing types of deals. So they will definitely be able to create for you branded email versions of these notifications that we can then configure on the back end. So just keep that in mind. We can definitely set up default SMS ones. We just don't have default email ones. So you'll have to get those HTML templates first before we can set them up. Now let's talk about Spot dependencies very quickly, because this is another area where I get a lot of questions on. When somebody makes a pickup at a locker bank, somebody dropped off their stuff, they pick it up, and they bring it back to the store, and then when they detail it, it doesn't say locker. It just says counter. And they're like, what's going on? What am I doing wrong? I'm doing everything right. I'm going to the locker bank. I'm scanning the barcode on the door. I'm scanning the invoice, the bag tag, but it's still not letting me create the order as a locker order. Well, the reason is probably because we're not configured at the store to be able to create locker orders. So on the screenshot here, we can see one of the Spot dependencies that are important to know of is the locker orders creation settings. And this can be found at the store route settings, locker-create locker events at mark-in, and store-route settings, locker-show locker comment at detail. So the two things that this is going to do is one, the one above is going to actually allow you to create the locker orders, period, at the store. If this is not selected, no orders will be created as locker. And the one on the bottom is in case the customer left a comment on their locker drop-off via the mobile app or Customer Connect, then that can be shown at the time of the detail when kind of like a customer memo of sorts. So these two are there available at the store route settings. So make sure you go enable those if you ever have any issues with not being able to detail an order, a locker order, and have it be recognized as a locker order. Number two, My Directly Mobile Locker Drop-Off Menu. So if you have the mobile app and then but you don't see the locker menu on it, make sure that you have these settings enabled. You do not need to request our app team to enable that for you. You can do this yourself. It's fairly easy. All you have to do is go into your Spot company settings, company Customer Connect settings, general, locker drop-off enabled, and Customer Connect settings, sign up, allow locker delivery. These two will enable the locker operation on the mobile app and on Customer Connect. And then number three is just in case you don't have geolocation enabled. If you don't know what geolocation is, that is just the ability for addresses that are valid and can be mapped to be utilized for new customer signups. So this is found in Customer Connect settings, general geocoding enabled, and Customer Connect settings, general geocoding address lookup method. Today for the address lookup method, we just have one, that's Telogis. So this setting should say T for Telogis. We are eventually going to be moving to a Google-based address lookup method. So, but that's coming further down along the pipeline. Just something to give you guys an FYI on. So as far as invoice history, let's break that down very quickly here so we can kind of get an idea of what a locker order will go through and what things we can see regarding that locker order in invoice history. So the first event we have is, as you can see in the status column, we have a L drop-off. And this is obviously the drop-off that was made by the customer using their mobile app. we have the location here, which is a combination, like we said before, of the locker bank this short description and the locker door short description. After that, we have an entry for a locker collected. This is the driver scanning that order and clearing out that pickup request from the same locker bank and locker door. Now we have a detail, then we have a rack event. And remember how I said in the beginning that unless the order is racked, it will not appear in the manifest. Make sure that you are racking your orders if you're not today. Then we have a manifest creation event. This is delivery console creating a route plan for service plan SP1. That must be the one where our locker bank is located as its route stop. Then we have an L delivered. This stands for locker delivery. And this is the driver scanning the order and the locker door barcode and confirming that it's locked. That is what this L delivered mean. And then we have a pickup event, but don't be confused. This is not a customer making a pickup. This is the system picking up the order, if you want to call it that way. It will be the same thing as posting an order, right? We're saying that it's no longer in our possession. It is now in the locker itself. So now Spot has marked it as picked up. And this will be the event 2 in which it will be sold, right? Because RouteTrack will be selling that order when it gets delivered. So it's both the picked up event as in like it's been sold, and it's also the one where it's been marked as off of our manifest. Now, you do see here that we have 3 on manifest events right here. You may be wondering, how come we have 3 on manifest entries if we already marked it as delivered? Well, these are the 3 times that we creating a new route plan and that the driver marked the order as still present using the old orders tab at the locker stop. So 3 times we went out there and 3 times the driver said, hey, this order is still here. But then on the last time that we went out there, he did not see it there anymore, so he marked it as not present. And now we have that very last entry of L picked up, locker pickup. So now the customer came in and picked up their stuff from the locker. And that's basically what the invoice history will show you in terms of locker orders. Now, so for the last slide, we're just going to go over the prerequisites here for your locker operations. The first one is obviously you're going to need unique QR barcodes on each locker door. We already talked about this. They have to be unique across the board. Number 2, Twilio account activated. This is in case you want to use SMS notifications for your lockers. Number 3 is RouteTrack Mobile. Number 4, the mobile app, and you already should know why that is such a great idea to have it, but again, it is optional. Number 5, Customer Connect. Number 6, store location, latitude, longitude information. We do get a couple of these kind of issues where somebody will call in having issues with their mapping and their geolocation and the locker banks not showing up correctly on the mobile app. Please make sure that every store that is going to be involved in this process has latitude and longitude information set. You can find this in Spot and your setup location information. At the very bottom, there's a list of addresses. If you scroll all the way down to the right-hand side on these addresses, you'll find the 2 columns for latitude and longitude information. Number 7, trucks configured in route settings. And some of this information, you'll be able to also get it from the RouteTrack webinar, where they'll walk you through what kind of stuff is required on the Spot side to be able to use RouteTrack Mobile correctly. This is what these are talking about. The trucks configured in route settings just means that you need to have that enabled to be able to load a manifest and use RouteTrack in general. Number 8, Delivery Console activated. And don't forget, Delivery Console is free with any RouteTrack Mobile subscription, so you don't need to purchase that anywhere. If you already have Delivery Console, great. If you don't, then obviously you're already in the good track by listening to all these webinars that will walk you through every single piece of information that you need to know before you jump on board with Delivery Console and lockers. And then within Delivery Console, obviously you need to have delivery zones, you need to have service plans, you need to have your locker banks created, your interior directions to the locker bank, etc. So, but again, we have developed an onboarding process and that will help you through those configurations by talking to a technician one-on-one. The only requirements for you to get that hour's timer, because we have 1 hour slots is what we've dedicated for the different steps in the onboarding, but for you to get the ability to get a technician to sit down with you and go through these list of steps that we have for you in the checklist, you need to obviously clear out all the webinars that we've dictated as prerequisites. So if this is part of that onboarding process for you, great, you already can mark this webinar off of that list and proceed with your next step on your onboarding process. I want to thank everybody who came out today to listen to our webinar today for Lockers 101. Next week will be Delivery Console. If you already went to that one, then Godspeed to you. If you haven't, please visit us next Wednesday so you can cross that one out of your checklist as well. And unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of time for questions, so I will just go ahead and make sure to let you guys know to visit docs.spotpos.com. There's a lot of information about our locker stuff, about Delivery Console in general. It's being updated every week. Our development team is working really hard to make sure that documentation is being put out there for everybody to use. So once again, that's docs.spotpos.com. Look up lockers, look up Delivery Console. There's a bunch of information out there for you. Thank you so much for coming out, guys. Have a good one and happy Thanksgiving.